Hi, I'm Joe Mullings, and this is The Other Side. Chatting with Tal Wenderow today. Tal is the CEO of Vocalis Health, and he's reaching, actually, we're reaching you out up in Boston today, right, Tal?
Yeah, I'm in Boston today. It's flurry of snow a little bit, just a good mix of March.
You're getting snow up there right now?
Yep, just not sticking on the ground, but just coating.
Yeah. So Tal, as I mentioned, is CEO of Vocalis, and previous to Vocalis Health, he was, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you were one of the founders of Corindus, which is now a Siemens property, and that was a billion-dollar plus acquisition by Siemens just in the last 6 months.
Yep, yep. They closed that, I think, on November, if I remember correctly, and started that in Israel way back 17 years ago with the interventional cardiologist, then moved out to Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, and that you were employee number 2 or employee number 1. What were you, 4 years old when you started at Tal?
I was 3 years old and employee -1. You know how it is. Actually, we, meaning me and my wife supporting me, without paycheck before we even started the company. That's the way it works.
Yeah, yeah, and you and I have, beside become business friends, also personal friends over the years, so I always appreciate that as well. And Vocalis has got a foot here in the United States and also in Israel. Is that right?
Yep. Our R&D center is in Israel, data science, clinical, founder of the company is in Israel, and I'm starting marketing commercial operation right now in Boston for the last couple of months.
Yeah. And what especially got me interested in this is you reached out to me last week when you knew what we were doing with The Other Side and said, "Hey, Joe, we've joined this fight on this COVID-19 virus. Vocalis Health is got a potential or a study going on right now on diagnosing potentially the virus using voice. And how are you going to do that?"
So our goal, what we're trying to do, is to find a correlation between the voice and COVID-19. Now, obviously, our technology, just to give background, is we analyze the voice. So we see how you speak or hear how you speak. We don't care about the content, but just the acoustic. And we correlate it by using machine learning and deep learning with medical symptoms, disease, and database. And by that, we unveil vocal biomarker that are algorithm that are correlated, a score that is correlated with your health to some degree. And I think it was a little bit before HIMSS was shut down, right? So we had a brainstorming, everyone starting, you can start feeling the buzz, realizing, hey, it's not just in China, it's actually coming over here. And we kind of like, it's a respiratory disease. We are dealing with respiratories. Our founder is Dr. Hassan, and I think you met him
Shady,
over
yeah,
Shadi, over a nice white wine in the beach
on the
of
beach
Israel.
in Israel, in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, when you could actually do a hug, right? Not a virtual hug.
That's right. That's right.
So he's an MD. He diagnosed patients, and by just listening to their voice, and he realized, I wrote code when I was younger. What can I do with that? So he actually left medical practice to try to find that correlation. And the way I think about it, hey, you know exactly when you speak with me, hey, Tal, you don't sound so good today. So we all have that. Our goal is to quantify that in the healthcare and use that as another sensor. Now, with the COVID-19, we're saying, can we help? So that's the first and foremost. Can we help? Because we see the pandemic, we see how crazy it is just to, hey, we're doing Zoom instead of face-to-face. And to do that, we just need data. So that's the reason we launched a web survey for everyone. And we're also launching in the next couple of days, starting in Israel, then going abroad to the US and others in the hospital. So go to the COVID-19 patients, whether tested positive or negative, right? And just to collect the database with the goal to find some correlation that is unique. And that's a task here, right? If it's not unique, will it help or no? I can get to that later. If it is unique, we think we can help with flattening the curve. Will not be a solution to solve the virus, right?
Sure.
The way we think about it is the biggest two challenges that I see today is one, there are not enough tests, right? So how do you triage who has higher risk to get a test? And two, once you tested positive, the hospital only want the really severe cases in the hospital. So how do you manage those symptomatic or asymptomatic cases at home and just see when they deteriorate? And there's a lot of amazing technologies and telehealth and patches and monitoring. We're trying to find a unique correlation to COVID-19 to help those care managers, the telehealth physicians and staff to manage from home. That's what we're trying to do. These two things.
You had mentioned to me when we were in Tel Aviv just a few months ago, and it was always mind-bending to me, and you explained it so succinctly, as the voice is nothing more than a signal carrier. I don't care what they're saying. I don't care what their accent is, what their intonation is. It is just a series of signals that we can go ahead and take that signal, and especially to your point, the respiratory side, I mean, that's straight down the middle from being able to do a diagnostic. And, you know, it's funny, I think we're going to find a lot of quote unquote precursor signals to stay out ahead of this. Yours and mine friend Rick Jeffrion, that came up today. Rick has started a company that has addressed the loss of taste and smell. And the data just came out yesterday that more than 30% of the patients reported a loss of taste and smell previous to becoming symptomatic with this. So I think there's all kinds of precursors or hints coming up that if we can stay out ahead of that, we might not be able to add a therapeutic to it, but a diagnostic that allows us to sort of intervene earlier or keep them from becoming critical.
Yeah, it's exactly right. The way we see voice is the first line of defense. We're not going to solve that, right? We're just going to raise a flag to all disease. We're focusing right now on respiratory. But to your point about the loss of smell, when we looked on all the publication by CDC and the World Health Organization, they all looked at shortness of breath as a unique symptom to COVID-19 over common cold and flu. Without getting too commercial here, our first product is a detector of shortness of breath that is expecting CE mark every day. So once this one out, and the problem with shortness of breath is very hard to quantify. So as a patient, if I'm a patient, I can say, I'm having a hard time breathing today. You ask me tomorrow, I said, I'm still having a hard time breathing. How do I quantify, is it better, is it worse? And we're trying to do that, right? To kind of put some measurement or scale to that shortness of breath. We're not going to tell him, just go to the ER. We're going to tell his caregiver or care provider, hey, there's a problem here. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, so you can get out ahead in almost a predictive analytics. And another interesting thing is, you know, we're seeing as we move into this world and this COVID situation is going to quickly accelerate us towards a digital environment in healthcare, more quickly than we ever would have moved without the kick in the butt. And so that's great, whether it's telepresence, whether it's diagnostic on the digital side, because right now the biggest issue is, and it won't replace an analog test, but to your point, it may help us triage that diagnostic because we can scale it on this now very, very quickly on a download on an app from an Apple store. I don't know how it's going to work right now. And at least get out ahead and create a baseline right now too, Tal. I mean, help me through the science. If I was going to download that app, wouldn't I want some sort of baseline before I had a scenario that I may want to diagnose? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, we need 2 or 3 days of baseline, obviously, just to create that. The question is, to be honest, do we share the information with the user, meaning the subscriber or the patient, or we share it only with the caregiver or the care provider? That's TBD yet. The bar is always higher to me when you go to the patient because you don't want to really freak him out. Oh, I have a problem. Let's rush to the ER. That's exactly what we don't want to do. But to your point about that growth of telehealth, I heard a quote which is fascinating. I spoke with one of the insurance companies in the US, and they told me the amount of traffic they sent to those telehealth, whether it's Teladoc, American Well, in 1 week is almost like the last couple of months. The challenge they have is they don't have enough care managers to manage those patients. So how do you triage before even? Because if I have 10,000 care managers and I need to now remotely manage 1 million, 2 million people, it's not equipped to do that. And that's the triage that we're trying to help. And I don't think, we'll see in a couple of years whether there'll be a complete, who is the integrator, right? Mm-hmm. We are starting to integrate it to our solution, vital sign, we already have symptoms on top of the voice, but it will be some consolidation because you cannot have 5-10 different products. That doesn't make sense.
No. And I think, what's interesting is this is the tip of the spear. The first thing is that we had to have this tragedy occur. Was it predicted previously? Yeah, but we didn't know the timeline on it, nor did we move towards it. Fine. We're going to have an acceleration towards telehealth, telepresence, but now we'll always have that lag now. Now what's the workflow look like? How are we going to handle those numbers? Where is that data going to go? Who owns that data? Does the patient own the data? Who, right? And so those are questions not to be solved today, but certainly under consideration. This is, again, another technology that's come out of Israel. Israel, pound for pound, and its 8 million residents, is, again, pound for pound, leading the way digitally across the world, in my opinion. What are things like right now with your team in Israel? Israel had a very rapid response to this before most other people shut their borders, even for those to leave. What I recall when you and I chatted, they weren't even letting healthcare professionals leave because they wanted them on the ground in order to deal with the population.
Yeah. Again, I'm here, not in Israel, although most of my team is over there. So right now, everyone works from home, right? I think today they actually announced that you actually cannot leave the home unless you go into the grocery store, pharmacy, or stuff like that. They're trying to apply social distancing. Whether it's too much or too little, don't know. There's a lot of questions, not getting into politics, about what is the big brother and where is that boundary is, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's army, whether it's cellular location all the time, but I think they're trying to react fast. Whether that is the solution, honestly, that's above my pay grade. But we're working. Zoom is without getting a commercial to Zoom, but Zoom is our best friend. And you know that better than I. The first thing, we actually tried to be ahead of that because we canceled him 2 days before that because I didn't want people to travel for nothing. And we had a call on a Sunday before Israeli shut down all the borders and stopped everyone to work from home, trying to say, hey guys, each one have his own judgment and work from home if he wants. But the one thing I demanded first is only video conference call. Because when you do voice conference call, it's not the same. No. We all multitask. So when no one sees you, it's even worse. But luckily for us, we work on cloud-based. We are software play. We don't have any labs. We're not a pharmaceutical company. We don't have any horrendous robotic system to build. It's all virtually. So for us, the damage is still in the team environment, but we're doing daily checkups. I'm doing like 10 p.m. their time every day. They're doing with their team, and hopefully we'll kind of pass that intra-corona. But luckily, there's a goal for us because we're working to find a solution for this. So luckily for us, we're in that environment and not just trying to push to get additional revenues. Yeah. But it's challenging. It's not easy.
Are you able to share with me, has the government or is the clinical trial or the clinical activity that directly addresses the COVID-19, is there any special path that's being given on that right now?
I think it's all on steroids, I'll say that, right? Mm-hmm. So we're doing a clinical trial, so Helsinki is faster. You're doing that with less agreement, but that's a discussion I had before. Hey guys, data privacy is number one, right? We have to store the data the right way. We have to protect privacy, but there are all over the world, including here in the US, the FDA has emergency use authorization, which is enable companies to do a fast path to go to the market, whether it's a solution like us or any other solution. So I think all the governments are realizing that it's easier. Israel is trying I was just in a discussion that trying to help with ventilator system and life support system, and there's a lot of initiative right now. I got a lot of calls. I'll give credit for people trying. Let's collaborate, right? Forget about business side. Forget about startups, big company, government. Doesn't matter. We just need the solution. Israel know very well how to get together in those situations. Good or bad, that's a different story. But I, I honestly think most of us are working to find solution right now. But there might be another outbreak next year, whether it's the same coronavirus or different. So we just need similar. The way I selfishly, I'll say, or biasly think about it, it's like an antivirus, or think about checkpoints, cybersecurity. Till you get infected once, you don't care about it. It didn't touch you. But once you're infected by that, you think about what's my first line of defense? How do I kind of put those domino Legos in place to make sure it protects, and then this fall, I have another one. And that's how we see voice, and we're trying to get that first line of defense.
Yeah, we always harden a target after it's been attacked. We never harden it until it is attacked. Yeah, and certainly this is a major attack, and hardening this target from a early intervention, diagnostic, even predictive analytics, down to using data on Google, on people Googling sore throat, hard to breathe, headache.
Right.
We know they've run that sort of drill before. You're in Boston right now, and I know Boston is one of those locked down cities. New York, New Jersey, Chicago, San Fran, LA. What are things like up there right now?
Yeah, so I don't think it's officially locked down. It's a recommendation still in Boston. I mean, I'm in Newton, which is a suburb, so no school for the last 10 days. They just started doing curriculum online. No city services. It's the same, I think, everywhere. I don't know how Florida is right now, but you're trying to stay home. We're trying to be sane and walk, meaning it's good for the family. I'll say that, right? If you like your family, it's really awesome. But we try to do a walk just ourselves, close by, don't go near people, and it's very good. But yeah, whether social distancing is the right solution or not, I think it is, but it doesn't matter. If you're in, you have to be all in, right? Otherwise, it doesn't help. Yeah. So no toilet paper. Supermarket, it's like, you have only 2 for today. No, just kidding. But it's challenging because you start looking around and see where's that virus, and it's invincible, right? But I think people are stronger than that, and in the long run, we'll hopefully look back and say that's how we got some perception in life, and it's not just about the running all the time.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, and certainly it's starting to emerge right now. As I'm in agreement with you that social distancing was initially a very appropriate, if not draconian, approach to at least arresting this right now. My concern is, and I know other leaders are balancing out the empathy and the concern for having this continuing to accelerate, but also keeping in mind the 3-month, 2-month, and then beyond horizon of the economic impact, and are we over-indexing towards safety on this? Because the long-term implications are going to be, I personally believe, much more dramatic and brutal on our country and the world. And I likened it to, I put it online today, it's like knowing that the air around you is contaminated, so you then take a big plastic bag and put it over your head and tie it tight. And it's good for 3 or 4 gulps, but after that, things don't work out so well. And so, that's the analogy I'm using, and I don't mean it to be disrespectful, yet it gets your attention.
I agree, meaning, and I don't think we all have the entire information, meaning hopefully the guys in the front know more than us, whether it's the data integrity of the information from China, because China was in lockdown of 2 months, and I just saw a video online today that they're starting going to supermarket and they're starting release. So if it's 2 months, it's recoverable, but I think time will tell. But it's definitely, I don't know what the solution is right now. I'm just following the China right now.
The China thing's a little different because with China, 80% of the businesses are government owned. So you've got a little bit different of an on-ramp there where the government can certainly manipulate anything they can. And it's not a consumer society like the U.S. is. 70% of our economy is based on consumption and service businesses. And so, you know, the on-ramp there is going to be an entirely different dynamic on the economy as that has to have decisions made.
No, it's painful. Meaning, again, luckily for us, we're in pre-revenue company. Our goal was to do pilots this year. So now we're shifting entirely to COVID-19 because no hospital will start a new pilot, obviously, meaning they're not doing any elective surgeries. But it's devastating, just not only to see the market, right, how it goes, but to hear around us people that are getting laid off or going on a long-term vacation, and you know, whether it's the cleaning lady that goes here, whether it's the local grocery store. We actually, in our city, there's a call, just order online and do pickup from those local restaurants just to help them to survive.
Yeah,
I think it's painful, and we'll see what happens and how fast. With it, I'm reading too much economy that I used to, which I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
Is it a U shape, a V shape, and all of that? I think in healthcare also, think about my previous company, robotics. Or who will buy an MRI system right now when you don't have face mask? So how do you balance all of that? And you know more about the startup and the R&D than me. I think it's a big change, right? If you're trying to raise money right now as a startup, and you're not in the coronavirus area, that's painful.
Yeah, I think you're going to see. But you brought a really good point up, is the digital startup, A round, B round, who are pushing through and don't have an inventory and can control their burn and don't have to worry about fabrication and can work remotely, less impact. But if you're a company that's in the $30 to $40 million a year sales and hospitals are shut down, and you're part of the elective surgery side of things that are going to have a big hit, and you've got maybe 1 month to 2 months of cash in the bank, and then you've got to go out for an SBA loan. What does that mean to you? So it's a crazy dynamic right now, and certainly it always sounds bad to talk about economics when there are deaths right in front of us. I think there's a responsibility to everybody in the game to at least address both equally.
No, I agree, and I think most of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. So if you don't get one, then you're starting to do catch up, right? That's my concern as a person, whether it's the US or Israel. It's if you don't have that rainy day cash, what do you do?
Yeah.
I wish I had a solution for that. We're trying to help. We'll see. Meaning it will never be black and white. And you know, healthcare is not a science. Although people think healthcare is a science. To me, healthcare is not a direct science like any others. But think about second opinion. What is second opinion? I don't trust you, Dr. Joe. I'll go to Dr. Bill, right?
For the opinion I want to hear, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. So it's all about, to me, how do you give that medical team, the healthcare professional, the right ammunition to be correct most of the time. But think about colleges. You know, if you speak about life, right? Will that impact the college tuition in the US?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Just think about all the students whose parents right now are scrambling just to make tuition right now, and now you're talking about potentially a generation that may or may not go to college because of this situation. Depends on how long it gets strung out.
So I know. No, it's
the social impact is dramatic.
Yeah. So hopefully, I think it's not a question of if; it's a question of when they'll find a vaccine, right? So how do you bridge that gap, right? Hopefully it's more like a flu. And I'm honestly thinking, I don't know exactly all the truth here, is the question is the mortality rate is the right rate, but because we don't have enough tests, we don't know if the mortality is by order of magnitude lower than that.
Well, we never know we don't know what the denominator is, right? That's the one thing we don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. So is it 0.1% or 1%? It's a big change how we impact the economy. So if it's 0.1, we're not doing the right thing. If it's 1%, potentially.
Correct.
So
Tal, one of the things I ask my guests all the time is, look, you know, as a leader, you were a founder of Corindus, that when you left, it was tremendous success, and now you're a CEO of a different type of company and a different size, and in the same industry, but really a different platform. What are you thinking about as a CEO? And what guidance could you give to first-time CEOs out there that may be sitting in a early stage or a mid stage right now?
So the number one and most important thing, and probably cliche, is the team. Meaning, I'm trying to even myself text, call, or being right now once a week with my entire company. It's not a big company; it's easier, but I think communication is the key, right? And how do and whether it's up and down, whether it's to my board of director, or to my shareholders, or to my team, because we're all running literally on steroids right now. We're trying to control it and be in organized chaos, but you have to communicate, and things change, priorities changes because of the dynamic of the world we are. Meaning, I just told one of my team a week sounds like a day today, right? What's used to be a week, it's a day. So I think communication is the key. Transparency is number two, up and down again. Meaning, I'm calling my board member, even over communicate when things are not mature enough. But if you have a good board, they will help you. They're just not your boss. They're not your cop. They'll try to help you. So these two things. And I think the third thing is, forget about the cash. These are the obvious things. And it's the risk, what impact. And I'll give credit to our investors, Amon. They did a session last week, brought all their CEOs, brought some guest speakers and speak about, guys, here's a template, how to run risk analysis. We all do it in our head, but they provided that. So it helps. So cash flow, whether it's headcount and resource, we're actually hiring right now. So we're still looking for some team members, and we're hiring right now in Israel. And you also think about what's your pilots, what's your revenues, and how do you bridge that gap? And then if you don't, what do you do, right? So luckily for us, we had COVID-19, so we're all in, right? So people call me, do I have a solution right now? Which is a good problem to have. But I think it's think about your short-term goals, your long-term goals, and over-communicate. And going back to the team, some mistakes I made is kind of like, hey guys, keep doing, and you keep pushing, you're like pushing a dead horse, right? Similar to your analogy of that air solution, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a limit. You have to hear your team, and sometimes take a day off, go. I don't want to hear an email from you. It's hard because your temptations just keep pushing, but you don't want to overburn them, and then you lose that. You told me once, a statement I use all the time, startup is a marathon full of sprints. I use that all the time, which is exactly right. We're in an amazing uphill battle sprint right now, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah. That's great advice, and I appreciate it, Tal.
Especially when it's yours, right?
Yeah, especially when it's yours. Especially when it's yours. Well, listen, I know you've got things to do. I really appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedule and joining us from Boston. And if I can, I'll reach out to you as this continues to move on. If you have any breaks in news that you can share with us in regards to the solution that Vocalis has got on the table, please let me know, and we would love to share that immediately with the market.
No, thanks. That was fun. It's always good to get a step back, right? Or even for me. Yeah. It's like a mentorish for an interview. That's perfect. But no, thanks for the time. I'll share any information. Hopefully we have some good news about the progress of the trial, and hopefully we can have some good news, meaning that's the goal. So definitely we'll share that.
Agreed. Be well, and I'll chat with you soon. All right, Tal?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. This has been Joe Mullings from The Other Side.